It is a mini bye Monday here on Birds 365. You got Mac and Mac, John McMullen, and Jody McDonald here to hang and talk football with you for the next 2 hours. We'll certainly talk about an Eagle game that was played. It was played a good couple of days ago. It seems like it's in the rearview mirror, but we'll certainly give enough time to that. But look at what went down in the National Football League yesterday and look ahead. Damn, Johnny Mac, it's still more than a week away before the Eagles play. Not till Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All of a sudden, we're like dying for Eagles football to get here, and then it goes back away again for a too long a period of time because of the schedule makers.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a super mini bye because you get the extra day on top of it. Yeah, I don't like the timing of it. You'd prefer to have that mini bye later in the season, but it is what it is. And, the Eagles can take advantage of it. They're 2-0. They persevered, but there's a lot of things to clean up. It's a good 2-0 for a coaching staff because, not a lot of style points as a lot of people want, and you can nitpick and do all that kind of stuff. And Nick Sirianni even said that after the game on Thursday night. He said, you can kind of, it's easier to correct things when you win. People are more, they're not surly, they're not upset, their mood isn't ruined. So you can do some different things as far as that goes. But yeah, I mean, this team keeps persevering and the expectations, that's what I say. That's what I'm concerned about. And I think about the dust up on the sideline between AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, and how Nick handled that and how AJ handled that. That tells me this team's wound a little bit tight. Now, Jalen, Mr. 25-year-old, he handles it the correct way. And if everybody was on the same page with Jalen, including the head coach who's 17 years older, wouldn't be an issue. But he got all salty and surly and things. It tells me they're wound a little bit tight. That's how I take it.
And if you're wound tight, it could lend itself to bad things and bad results. And like you said, they're 2-0. It might not be the most impressive 2-0. We'll look around the league at some of the other games yesterday and the teams that, like the Eagles, are 2-0, and they might have had more impressive wins. But the bottom line is standings are all the same. They don't have a style points column on the standing page. It just wins and losses, and the Eagles are 2-0
college. You don't gotta impress people in a room, in a boardroom. Just get a win or a loss or a tie.
And the Eagles have gotten 2 wins so far. But let me ask you about easier on the coaches because of a win and, again, maybe not impressive wins and the like. They can put in more time. They can spend more time down at the NovaCare complex. They can put in more work. The players can't because of collective bargaining rules and the way the Eagles have laid out their game plan as to how they prep for an entire season well in advance. And I believe that both Brian Johnson and Sean Desai probably did put in some extra time during this mini bye week because not perfect efforts by the offense or the defense the first 2 weeks. But the players are home watching football these past couple of days. Hope they enjoyed themselves.
Probably not. Certainly not Fletcher. That's a great question. He does not watch football. A lot of players don't. Some do. Some don't. Some do. But I wouldn't count on them sitting in front of the TV for 10 hours like the rest of us.
If they don't, that's certainly their choice. And if they don't believe they can learn by watching others, okay, fine. I would tend to think that can't hurt and might be a good idea, but I'm not going to tell Fletcher Cox that, or at least not to his face. What is their schedule going to look like this week? They don't play till Monday night. They had the days off because they played on Thursday. Are they going to get any extra time at the facility? How do you work out the little kinks in a 2-0 start, but kinks just the same?
Yeah, it's going to be a normal Monday night game week pretty much, and they'll get back. So they have some extra time from that standpoint as well because they have the extra day. But, it's going to be if it were a Sunday game, it would be completely normal. The Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Nick's going to talk today, but it's virtual. And then they're going to get back on the field Wednesday for an actual practice. So not that much different than a normal week. Yeah, it's more when you talk about these buys, as you mentioned, it's more about extra time for the coaching staff to try to, figure out what they want to fix, what they're not happy with, things like that. And then you try to get it done with the players as best you can. But yeah, it's not drastically different. As Monday at 8 o'clock, 8:07. I do not have the official schedule, so typical. But I do know Nick is going to talk today, and they're going to be back on the practice field Wednesday. So it's not that all that different from a typical week.
Understood. But hopefully the coaches do get some extra time to work through some of the things. One of the things you can ask Nick Sirianni today, I can pretty much assure you're not going to get a complete and full answer because Nick believes in the competitive advantage. Eagles came out of the game on Thursday night a little banged up, and the biggest injury is Avante Maddox, who at least people are speculating has a torn pec. And if that's the case, it's going to be a lengthy injury for Avante Maddox. And that hits home with the Eagles because that's a spot where they don't have a given backup guy to come in and play. Mario Goodrich, young guy, got beat a couple of times in the game on Thursday night after Maddox went out. They used James Bradbury there in preseason practices just to give him a look at it and give him a feel for the position, and maybe certain matchups during the year they would have moved him in there. Johnny Mack, we're 99.9% sure Maddox is out for this week, and it's probably going to be longer than that. What's the Eagles' slot cornerback position going to look like?
Yeah, I'm on the phone with Chris Harris right now. It's interesting. That's a very good player, aging player. I'm starting to think about the template of Linval, Joseph, and to a lesser extent, Ndamukong Suh last season when they had multiple injuries at defensive tackle. People forget the backup was Zach McPherson. They lost him in the preseason, so they're down 2 nickel corners, and it's most likely Avante's done for the season. So this is long term. And you have another option. You have a number of options. You could like if this were a typical NFL team, an 8-9, parity driven NFL, blah blah blah. They're going to win some. They're going to lose some. I'd say just go with Goodrich and try to develop the young player. But this is a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And I don't think you can just sit back and assume. And I know a lot of people are going to bring up the Bradbury stuff, but to me, boy, that makes no sense. You're taking an all-pro player out of a position that he's an all-pro player at to move him inside. You'll be a little bit better than you would be with a Goodrich, but then you're affecting 2 positions, whether it's Josh Jobe on the outside, and you start to go, what are we doing here with these moving chairs? You can move Justin Evans to the nickel. He played the nickel last season with the Saints as an in-house kind of option. So there's a lot of ways you can go, but the easiest way is to pick up the phone. Now, I don't know how much Chris Harris has left, but I did. I said, well, why is he not? He's 34 years old, so he just might have nothing left. But he did say back in May that he was specifically going to wait and try to figure out a Super Bowl contender. Well, here it is. If he were serious, this is it. I mean, to me, it's easy, and we'll see how the Eagles go about it. Again, maybe he has nothing left. I don't know, but he was a damn good player for a long time and one of the best nickel corners in this league. I would certainly, at the bare minimum, kick the tires on that one.
I would not be surprised. Well, first of all, I think he was being honest and serious, and he just decided, listen, do I want to go through a preseason if I don't have to? No, I'll just wait here and I'll be ready. I'll keep myself in the shape that I need. I need to believe in. But maybe he's enjoying the downtime, and maybe
Well,
he
that's
wants to
possible
wait till
too.
somewhere
Yeah.
near midseason and says, when he picks up the phone to Howie Roseman, hey, you want to come to Philadelphia? I get back to you about 5-6 weeks. Sound good to you? Hey, I'll be checking it right about mid-season there. I want to get Halloween with my kids out of the way first, but November 1st, give me a buzz back and maybe we can talk. You never know. You throw out a very good name, a guy, as you say, has been a outstanding nickel corner and is probably on his last legs, but you never know. We thought that Linval Joseph could have been done too, and he came in and did a nice job for the Eagles last year. So wouldn't discount it, but until I hear that he is interested in joining a team right away and getting up to speed right away and be able to play right away, yeah, he's a guy who's on the outside looking in. Good idea, but you got to get some details on it as to whether he wants to play it or not. Let me ask about Avonte Maddox, because I've been a fan from the time that they drafted him. I thought he was a good pick. Where they got him, the talent that he was, he works his way into the starting lineup for the Eagles, plays well enough that merits one of the Howie ahead of time extensions, so they make a commitment to him. And the guy plays just too physical for his own good. He's not a
Yes, he
big
does.
guy, but he's a physical player and a smart player, but he also puts his body at risk, and they pay a price almost every single year with some kind of injury to Avonte Maddox. The Eagles make a mistake by extending him with a contract if Avonte Maddox is going to continue to miss significant time year in and year out?
I mean, maybe in hindsight, I mean, that could have been the last play you ever see of Avonte Maddox in Philadelphia. If you're remember, they signed Isaiah Rodgers, who's a nickel. It'd be nice if he could play, but he's suspended for the year. He might be the long-term answer from their perspective as the nickel corner. And we'll have to see how that shakes out. He's got to stay out of trouble. Number one, he's got to stop gambling. So who knows if he ever, but that's a talented player. And it was an interesting signing when the Eagles did it. Now you have another injury with Avonte Maddox. Yeah, I mean, best ability is availability. And I'm, I've said that for a while as well. He's so physical at his size, and he throws his body around, and the injuries have started to pile up. So the Eagles understand it, realize it. Who knows? Maybe Mario Goodrich steps in and plays well and starts to develop, and maybe he's in the mix. And I mentioned Rodgers for next year, and you can save some cap space by moving on. So there's a possibility that they go in a different direction after this season, no doubt about it. One name I should have mentioned, Josiah Scott, who's on Pittsburgh's practice squad. They might, but he's on the injured list right now, so he's not healthy. So
Is
that wouldn't
he?
be,
Oh, I didn't even know that.
That wouldn't be immediate. He's on practice squad injured list, which is different from IR. But I don't know what kind of injury. I talked to somebody in Pittsburgh. They don't know because that's not stuff you have to admit on the official injury report. So I don't know when he's going to be ready, if he's going to be ready. But obviously, it's not going to excite people, but knows the defense, obviously knows, played competent at times. A lot of different avenues they can go. But next year, yeah, I mean, you have to start seriously discussing that could have been his last play in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
That's
which is sad because I'm an Avonte Maddox fan. I like the player a great deal, but he got to be able to stay on the field. And he just seems to find injuries every single year, and this might be the biggest one of them all if he's going to miss the entire season. And as you point out, John, it could be the final play that we see of Avonte Maddox. Hopefully not. Hopefully he's back before the year is out. Hopefully he's back for a playoff run. but he's going to be out for a significant amount of time here in season, and Eagles are going to have to come up with some kind of replacement. So we gave you a couple potential options to keep your eyes on. A lot of other Eagle news we need to get to, like the fact that they do have some rookies that they're not playing. You mentioned moving Edmonds down into the slot perchance.
Evans, Justin
Evans, excuse me. What did I say?
Edmonds,
excuse me. Edmonds will surely be getting some time at safety, more time. If that's the case, we're assuming that Reed Blankenship is back this week. We gonna see Sidney Brown at all? I went over this last Friday with you after the game when I saw how few snaps Nolan Smith played and how few snaps Sidney Brown played. When did the Eagles get overly nervous about playing rookies? Is this a Sean Desai thing? Because I think they've been giving.
Well, they're not nervous with Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
But he's a little bit different. I mean, he's different. He's with. I mean, you saw it last year with Nakobe Dean. They didn't play Nakobe. Now they're very. It's a similar thing. Now, the problem is, I think people overstate Kaiser White's impact on this defense last season. He was good. To me, he was an average player. And could they have gotten more work for him? Yeah, they probably could have, but they felt that they were a Super Bowl contender, and why fix what isn't broken? And they turned out to be right. They made the Super Bowl. In the case of Sidney Brown, look, I talk about this scheme all the time. I do not like this scheme. I hope Eagles fans watched around the NFL yesterday with the Eagles not playing. So many teams play this bare front, 50 front, 40 front, Big Fangio style defense, the blown coverages on the back end. I do not like it, but the main goal of this scheme is to limit explosive plays. And when you have young players who are susceptible to blowing more coverages than even, say, the Eagles, who didn't blow a lot of coverage last year, but they blew coverages at the biggest moment. But overall, compared to other teams, they don't blow a lot of coverages. They're concerned about giving up big plays, and they have a trust issue with safeties and corners and young players from that perspective. Here's the problem I have: they don't have great talent at safety, with the exception of I think Reed's got a good chance, ironically, as an undrafted kid, to be a really good player. But other than that, I'm not impressed with. I thought Justin Evans kind of described what I said about Kaiser White. He's fine. He's average. He looks like a competent player to me. But the upside, the CJ Gardner-Johnson playmaker upside, I'll describe it as, is not there. Same thing with Terrell Edmonds. He's obviously competent. He started for 5 years in this league, but the playmaking upside's not there. Sidney Brown's got so much more explosiveness and burst. I would have played him, but they're worried about giving up explosive plays and mistakes, and they don't think he's ready.
I'm thinking maybe this week that against a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, and hey, I'm not putting Baker Mayfield down. He's played
2-0 Bucks. It's 2-0 versus 2-0, Jody. It's a heavyweight battle.
Almost 300 yards yesterday, and you just make sure Mike Evans isn't the one who's going to beat you. I'm not afraid of the Bucks with explosive plays, so this would be a week that maybe I try and get Sidney Brown in there. We're still a week away from finding out if that is the case, because the Eagles don't play till Monday. But everybody else in the NFL, well, I shouldn't say that because we have not one, but 2 Monday night games tonight. Annoying. That is annoying. We'll do a lot of recap of what went on around the National Football League next. Our buddy Jeff Kerf, CBSSports.com, who covers the entire league, will jump on with us. We'll surely talk Eagles with him, but also the rest of the National Football League in week number 2. Steve, don't call me Steve. Jeff Kerr, NBA Coach of the Year, Steve Kerr. I wish I could give Kerr that kind of payoff. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, coming up next with us here on Birds 365.